Regrettably, I'm about to cause trouble. Written and narrated by Amie McNee. Chapter 35. Rufus and Catalina came to the apothecary several weeks after Yuletide. He had no news of Queen Anne, only that she seemed well again, and that she smiled during the funerary processions. People hadn't liked that. They said it was disrespectful, but she was smiling because she thought she was safe. I began to think I was safe too, safe from having the Queen's blood on my hands, safe from having my kin taken from me. We had even dug out my dresses and jewels with the intention to sell them and find a space that would fit this family of 5. If the Shaftsberrys hadn't retrieved them by now, they were hardly going to risk the King's Witch's wrath after the happenings over Christmas. The light was lingering later and later now, and I liked the longer days. I sat in my room, looking through my box of charms, trying to find something appropriate to give a farmer whose sheep were dropping like they had the plague, listening to Rufus and Jimmy playing in the corner of the room. We had fashioned him a little bell on a string, and it was the best thing that had happened in all of Jimmy's 9 lives. My cat loved Rufus. Sometimes I thought he might like the Fae more than he liked his mamma. I couldn't blame him. I think I might even like Rufus more than I liked my cat. I stood up from my stool, and a bunch of lavender got caught in my hair. I untangled myself, and, as I did, I looked out the window. Zita was talking to Reggie. Reggie, of all people. I moved closer to the window and pressed my face against the pane. Something deep in my gut knew what they were talking about. I saw it in the gleeful way he stood, leaning back, cock first. I saw it in the way Zita stood, keeping a distance. Something bad has happened, I said to Rufus. The jingling of the bell stopped. I looked down at him and Jimmy on the floor, both cat and fairy looking up at me, neither saying anything. I heard the apothecary door close, and I moved to the top of the staircase, looking down to Zita. She stood still, lips pursed. "Maude," she said curtly. "The Queen is to be beheaded." I shut my eyes. "For witchcraft?" I asked. "Not specifically." "What could she be accused of?" "It's a motley accusation, a little bit of adultery, a little bit of incest, a sprinkling of conspiracy, and a strong insinuation of witchcraft." My heart broke for Anne. I thought of her on her bed, covered in blood. I involuntarily pictured her without a head. "This is because of me," I said. "Come down," she demanded. I obeyed. "Why do you think this is your fault?" She indicated that we were to walk into the garden. "Reggie's prophecy. That's what he came to gloat about, no?" "What prophecy?" she asked, harvesting snap peas. "He said," I whispered, "that I would kill another of my kind." She stopped still, then turned to me. "Oh, Maude." She embraced me. "Just as it was predicted, it is happening," I muttered into her shoulder. She released me. "They pit us against each other, Maude," she continued. "When you live under the boot of men, the boot of this world, this kingdom called England, they will make you betray one another. They will make you hate one another. They will make you kill one another. It's easier that way. They don't need to wipe us out if we wipe out one another." She resumed picking the peas. Reggie didn't need to be a prophet to know something like this would unfold. I tried to speak, but she raised her finger. "This is not your fault. This was in the stars, immovable and certain. What matters is, you saved my Hildy. That was your doing." She looked intently at me. "Was Reggie here to gloat about it?" She nodded. "He's still practicing, isn't he?" She nodded again. "We cannot fix the many problems of this world, Maude. We must simply do our sacred work." "Is her death to be public?" I wanted to be with her, to see her. "You cannot stop this, Maude." "I know. I just want to be there." It was just me and Zita. We spoke little. I had asked to go alone, but Zita was determined to be with me. London was crazed. People were everywhere. To my horror, it felt joyous. Spring flowers had popped up in every dirty crack of every street, and children ran wild and excited. We were told by many on the street that the date and time for the wondrous event had changed. Tomorrow, they said. The false queen dies tomorrow. I had thought for a small, ignorant, and hopeful minute she had been spared, but it was a distraction, to keep her away from the crowds, away from potential pity. We spent a silent night at an inn. I wondered if there was anything to be done, if these few extra hours were given to me to do something, But I could think of nothing. There was nothing to be done. The next morning I woke up in a sweat. We got word it was to happen at Tower Green. People thronged the streets, but Zita had a way of manoeuvring through them like oil through water. I held on to her. She got us about 100 feet back from the black scaffolding. We were there within divine timing. As we found our spot, the crowd hushed. Anne was already there, and she had taken a breath. And with that breath, she had sucked all the noise from the air. "Good Christian people," she called. My whole body erupted in bumps, as if she had cast a spell. "I am come hither to die, for according to the law, and by the law I am judged to die, and therefore I will speak nothing against it." Her gaze danced across the crowd, and then they lighted upon me. "I am come hither to accuse no man, nor woman, nor to speak anything of what whereof I am accused and condemned to die. But I pray God save the king and send him long to reign over you, for a gentler nor a more merciful prince was there never, and to me he was ever a good, a gentle, and sovereign lord. And if any person will meddle of my cause, I require them to judge the best. And thus, I take my leave of the world and of you all, and I heartily desire you all to pray for me. O Lord, have mercy on me. To God I commend my soul." I watched my mother, Frances, and Elizabeth come forward and remove her hat and cloak. I found my lips winding their way around a spell of some sort, just as they had with Reggie, an unknowable, unforeseen string of words being whispered by my own mouth to ensure that she felt no pain. She knelt, and as she knelt, something rippled through the thousands of spectators, and we all knelt too. I whispered, "Two angels that came from the west. One brought fire, and the other brought frost. The man raised his sword as I spoke. In frost out fire, leave with ease, peace transpire." She hardly noticed the stroke that came down. Her head rolled loudly in the silence. I repeated my spell again and again, in case that rolling head still felt pain, in case her body was left with agony. Leave with ease, peace transpire. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I stopped chanting. I turned to look to the owner of the hand, and saw I no one there. This has been the audiobook of Regrettably, I'm About to Cause Trouble, written and narrated by Amie McNee. Copyright 2022, Amie McNee. As always, I am indebted to my editor, Kate. Thank you for never once trying to explain to me how speech tags work, but just relentlessly fixing them every time anyone in my novels spoke. To Linda, my publishing consultant, thank you for holding me and supporting me during the scariest part of being an author. To Lena, my cover designer, thank you for understanding my stories and translating them into picture. To my husband and favourite author, James Weinstock, thank you for believing in Maude, even when I felt totally and utterly over her. And as always, thank you to the community of creatives who accompany me on my journey. Thank you for seeing me. Amie McNee is an author, speaker, and creative coach. Amie studied medieval history at university, focusing specifically on sex culture, sex work, and pornography. Alongside her historical fiction, Amie has written several much-loved books, all of which discuss the realities and magic of leading a creative life. Amie is known for speaking, teaching, and coaching artists all over the world and helping them to achieve their creative dreams. She has been called to create supportive, empowered communities for writers and artists. This is a big, beautiful, but oftentimes hard journey, and creatives don't need to do it without support. You can find Amie on Instagram, YouTube, and your podcast app.